There's this sound I still hear sometimes. Even now, 5 years later, like a door closing too softly, like someone erasing you with absolute precision. That was the last thing I heard when I left. No yelling, no tears, just that barely there click as the door shut behind me. Not slammed, not locked, just closed. As if I had never existed at all. I didn't even take the car. I remember walking 4 blocks in the dark with a duffel bag that wasn't even mine. It was hers. Pink zipper. One broken strap. The only thing I packed was 2 shirts, my birth certificate, and a toothbrush that I never used. I left my own name behind too, just like she asked me to. I disappeared. And you know what the sickest part was? I thought she might chase me. Even just a text. A call. Something like, wait. I didn't mean that. But nothing came. Days passed. Then months. Then whole seasons changed, and she still hadn't looked for me. You probably think I'm dramatic. I get it. I mean, most men wouldn't vanish just because their wife told them to. But I wasn't most men. I was background. A placeholder. I think I always knew that, deep down. Her exact words? You're like wallpaper, Lowell. You're just there. I need space to be more than this. Wallpaper. She couldn't even come up with a proper insult. Just stripped me down to beige paint and silence and told me to remove myself like I was mold behind a couch. So I did. I moved into a town where people didn't ask questions. No ID, no credit cards. I worked the night shift cleaning vending machines in bus depots. Wrote fake names on motel forms. Once slept inside a storage unit for 2 weeks when I couldn't make rent. I stopped talking to mirrors. It was easier not to see my face. Her face always echoed in mine. There were nights I wanted to scream. Not because I missed her, but because I couldn't even remember what I looked like when I was happy. Not just before her, but before the erosion. Before I learned how to shrink so small I could vanish completely. But then something shifted. Last month, I got a letter. No stamp, no return address. Just wedged between 2 flyers outside a coffee shop in Maine. It was sealed with masking tape. Inside, one photo. It was her. Vera. Standing in front of a conference banner, shaking hands with some politician-looking guy, and scrawled on the back in handwriting I hadn't seen in half a decade. You never really left, did you? I nearly dropped it. She'd found me, or at least some part of me. The timing didn't make sense. Nothing did. Because 2 days later, I was walking past the town hall when I saw her again, not in a letter this time, not in a dream. In real life. In my reality. Flesh and blood and smug grin. She was giving a speech. Same dress I remembered. Same hand gestures. Same smugness. But something in her face cracked when she saw me. Her words froze mid-sentence. People turned to follow her gaze. Then she stumbled back like she'd seen a ghost. Eyes rolled. Knees buckled. She collapsed. Right there, under the fluorescent lights, on a stage built for heroes. I stood at the back of the room. I didn't move. I didn't blink. Because I knew, the version of me she buried didn't stay dead. And I was about to dig up every lie she thought she got away with. The silence in that auditorium wasn't normal silence. It was the kind that freezes your spine and slows the air around you. Everyone was staring at her, collapsed at the edge of the stage like some puppet whose strings had snapped mid-sentence. And me? I was still standing in the back corner, half-shadowed beneath a flickering exit sign, heart pounding like it was trying to claw its way out. I should have left right then, slipped away the same way I came. But something, I don't even know what, anchored me in place. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe spite, maybe some tiny leftover thread in me still believed in closure. I hadn't planned for any of this. I didn't come to destroy her. I came to see if she still had a heart. Instead, she dropped like a stone before I could even say a word. People rushed to her. Phones came out. Someone yelled for a doctor. I stayed frozen, watching as the woman who once told me I was filler in her life's draft lay unconscious on the ground, breathing shallow, her hand twitching like she was chasing something in a dream. And then, and I swear this happened, she opened her eyes. Just for a second. And she saw me again. Her lips moved, barely, like dust being blown off a sealed box. She said one thing. One word. Lowell. My real name. Not the fake one I'd lived under for 5 years. Not the nickname she used in better times. No. She said it the way people say something they buried deep and hoped never to see again. Like a curse that returned. I walked out. I didn't run. I walked. Slowly. Like I'd just watched something too ancient and powerful to fight. I passed the crowd, who didn't even notice me. Everyone was too busy trying to resuscitate her reputation. I didn't know where I was going, but my legs carried me 2 blocks to a bench by the lake. That same lake where Vera once threw my phone into the water during a fight and said, "Now you'll stop whining about connection." Yeah, I remember all of it. I sat there for almost an hour, staring at the water like it could give me answers. And then, just when I was ready to fade back into the background, my burner phone buzzed. One text. No number. Just a message. "You can't come back. They don't know. Please, I'm begging you." I stared at the screen, blinking like maybe I'd misread it. They don't know? Who? About what? I wanted to toss the phone into the lake and forget I'd ever stepped back into her orbit. But instead, I stood up and walked straight to the local clinic. The same one she was taken to. I didn't check in. I didn't ask permission. I found her room on the directory and quietly made my way up, using the stairwell like some ghost revisiting its place of death. She was awake, lying in a hospital bed, hooked to and for, makeup wiped off, hair a mess, face pale. She looked smaller. Or maybe I looked larger now, having spent 5 years learning how to exist without her voice dictating who I was. When she saw me in the doorway, she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She whispered again. "You were supposed to stay gone." I didn't speak. I waited, like I was giving her a chance to rewrite everything. But then she said the one thing I wasn't prepared for. "Lowell, if they find out you're alive, everything I built, it'll fall apart." And just like that, I realized this wasn't about love or regret or even guilt. It was about her secret, a secret big enough to make her want me erased. And she thought she'd succeeded. Until now. I stood there in that sterile white hospital room, watching Vera's eyes dart back and forth like a trapped animal searching for a way out that didn't exist anymore. There were no lies prepared for this moment, no rehearsed stories to soften the truth. She looked like a magician caught mid-trick with the trapdoor stuck open. Her voice was strained, raw, not from pain, but from fear. Real, unfiltered fear. The kind she used to scoff at when I showed it. "I mean it, Lowell," she hissed, glancing toward the hallway as if someone might have followed me in. "You showing up like this, you don't understand the damage you could cause." I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just let her scramble through her own panic while I stood at the edge of the room like a memory refusing to stay buried. I hadn't spoken a word yet, and somehow that scared her more than anything I could have shouted. She finally sat up straighter in bed, like she remembered she was someone important. Her expression hardened. The Vera I remembered clawed her way back onto her face. "You think this is dramatic? Showing up at my event like some ghost? What do you want, Lowell? Applause? Closure?" I smiled. Just a little. It wasn't even a smile, really. More like a twitch of amusement that I couldn't hide. "Closure," I finally said, my voice hoarse from disuse. "You told me to disappear like I was trash on the sidewalk. You don't get to ask me what I want." She flinched. "Good." I pulled something out of my pocket and tossed it on the table beside her bed. It was a photo, the same one from the envelope she'd somehow sent me. Only this one had a second picture behind it, clipped to the back. A shot of her standing beside a man with dark hair, holding hands behind a conference curtain. Not professional. Intimate. Her eyes darted to it, then back to me. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "You mailed me the front photo. You must have forgotten the second one was stuck to it." Silence. Thick, guilty silence. "I don't know who he is," I added, shrugging. "But judging by how fast you fainted, I'm guessing he's not supposed to know about me." She reached for the picture, but I stopped her hand midair. She froze. And for once, I saw it, a fracture. The same kind of crack I used to hide in myself when I lived under her thumb. Now it was her turn to wonder who held the power in the room. "You said, they don't know," I said calmly. "Who's they? The press? His family? Your charity board?" She stayed silent, her lips pressing into a thin, pale line. And then she gave herself away. She looked at the door again, not the window, not the nurse's desk, the door. Like she expected someone very specific to burst in. I followed her gaze, then slowly stepped toward the nightstand and opened the drawer. Inside, a diamond necklace. Elegant, expensive, not hers. Vera never wore diamonds. She said they were tacky status symbols for insecure women. But here it was, nestled in a small velvet box with a business card taped beneath it. Martin Royce, CEO, Royce Development Group. I picked it up. "So this is the guy?" She didn't deny it. Her silence was the confirmation. "You lied to him," I said, voice low. "Told him your husband died." Or ran away. Or maybe you said I never existed at all. Still nothing. But her breathing gave it all away, short, shallow gulps like the walls were closing in. And then I asked what I really came to ask. Why did you mail me that picture? Her head snapped up. What? The envelope. The photo. Your handwriting. After 5 years of nothing, you suddenly sent it to me. Why? And that's when she broke. Her shoulders slumped. Her hand went to her temple like she was holding in a migraine. I didn't send it, she whispered. Lowell, someone else did. My stomach dropped. I thought it was you trying to blackmail me. That's why I collapsed. I didn't know you were still alive until I saw you. I stepped back, the pieces beginning to shift inside my head like a puzzle that had been turned upside down. If she didn't send the photo, then someone else knew. Someone who wanted to drag us both into the light. And whoever it was, they were already one step ahead. I left the hospital that night with more questions than I had when I showed up. The streets felt colder somehow, like the shadows were leaning in closer to hear what I was thinking. I kept walking, half expecting someone to follow me, maybe even pull me into a van and erase me for real this time. I'd gone 5 years thinking Vera's silence was punishment. But it turns out it might have been protection. Or worse, strategy. I didn't go back to my motel. That place wasn't safe anymore, not now. Instead, I ducked into a 24-hour diner off the highway, one of those places with buzzing light panels and waitresses who've seen everything but still smile like they haven't. I sat at the corner booth, ordered black coffee I didn't drink, and pulled the business card from my jacket again. Martin Royce. I'd never heard of him, but the way Vera reacted, that stiff panic, the kind she used to reserve for surprise visits from her parents, told me everything I needed to know. She was living a lie with that man. And if someone had sent me that photo without her knowing, then someone else knew the lie too. I flipped the card over. No notes, no scribbles. Just his contact info and a small embossed logo in the corner, a gold lion's head with the words Royce Legacy Foundation beneath it. That's when it clicked. The charity. The press event. The reason she was in this town to begin with. Vera hadn't just reinvented herself, she had woven herself into the fabric of a man's empire. And now, suddenly, I was alive again. Breathing, moving proof that her fairy tale had a rod underneath it. I pulled out my phone, a different burner, newer, clean, and typed his name into a search engine. My screen lit up with headlines. Royce Development pledges $2 million to Veterans Housing Initiative. Martin Royce engaged to humanitarian award winner Vera Lee. The power couple of the Northeast, Royce and Lee take the stage. I stared at that last one. Lee. She had dropped my name like a used napkin and taken up a brand new identity. Clean. Charitable. Untouchable. Except now, someone had touched it. I scrolled further and found something that made my stomach twist. A press release from 2 months ago, praising Vera for overcoming personal tragedy after the loss of her former spouse. Loss. As in dead. She told the world I was gone. No record. No funeral, obviously. I hadn't exactly died. But she must have spun a story. Maybe I'd drowned. Or vanished overseas. Maybe I'd abandoned her. Whatever she told them, it worked. She got sympathy, attention, status, all built on the lie of my absence. And someone knew it. I sat in that booth for hours, trying to piece it all together. Who would have sent that photo? And why now? Why me? I didn't have a lot of people left in my old life. Vera made sure of that. She'd always isolated me, slowly and subtly. Friends dropped off the map. My own sister hadn't answered my calls in the last year of our marriage. Vera always said it was better that way. Fewer people meddling in our private life. But there was one name that suddenly rang like a bell through my foggy mind. Marla, Vera's ex-best friend. The one who mysteriously stopped coming around just before Vera told me to disappear. The one who once drunkenly told me, "You're too good for her, Lowell. One day, she'll push you off a cliff and blame you for the fall." That was the last thing Marla ever said to me. Until now, maybe. What if she was the one who sent the photo? What if she'd been watching, waiting, collecting evidence, and decided it was time for Vera's house of cards to collapse? I paid for my untouched coffee, left a 20 under the cup, and headed toward the one place I swore I'd never return to, my old neighborhood. I still remembered the code to the gate. I'd installed it myself back when I still thought I could fix a broken marriage with elbow grease and patience. The same apartment complex where we lived during the final year. I didn't go to our unit. I went to 2B, just below it. Marla's old place. I knocked. Silence. Then footsteps. Then the door cracked open, and there she was. Older, yes. Hair a different color. But those eyes? Sharp, tired, knowing. She stared at me for a full 5 seconds before speaking. And when she did, she didn't say hello or lol or oh my God, you're alive. She just said, I was wondering how long it would take you to find me. Marla didn't invite me in right away. She just stood in the doorway, one hand gripping the edge like she wasn't sure if she was about to let in an old friend or a loaded gun. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Her eyes did all the talking. They scanned my face like they were checking to see if I was still human under all the years in silence. Finally, with a resigned breath, she stepped aside and motioned for me to enter. The apartment hadn't changed much. Same battered couch with the crochet blanket. Same dusty shelves filled with records and old movie scripts she never finished. The air smelled like cinnamon and vanilla, and for a weird second, I felt safer than I had in years. She sat across from me, cross-legged on a mismatched armchair, nursing a chipped mug of tea that had probably been cold for hours. I waited for her to speak. She didn't. So I did. You sent it, didn't you? I asked. The envelope. The photo. Marla's mouth curled into something between a smile and a grimace. Of course I did. You really think Vera would out herself like that? I let the words settle. The knot in my chest didn't loosen. If anything, it pulled tighter. Why now? I asked. 5 years, Marla. Why not come to me sooner? She exhaled through her nose. Because 5 years ago, you were already dead. Not literally, but in every way that mattered. You were broken, lol. I saw it. I felt it. If I had dragged you into this mess back then, it would have destroyed you. You weren't ready. That stung. Mostly because it was true. I swallowed hard. And now, she said, leaning forward. Now you need to see what she's become. What she's doing. You think this is about some love triangle? It's not. Vera is building something dark, lol. She didn't just lie about you. She erased you for a reason. I furrowed my brow. What reason? Marla didn't answer with words. Instead, she stood up and crossed to a small cabinet near the window. She pulled out a manila folder so thick the paper edges were curling. She tossed it onto the coffee table between us. My name was written on the front in red marker. I stared at it. Go on, she said softly. I opened it. Inside were documents. Dozens of them. Printouts of charity board minutes. Bank transfers. Emails between Vera and a man whose name was blacked out in every header but one, Martin Royce. There were contracts. Shell company receipts. Donations redirected through ghost nonprofits. Everything legal on the surface, but just under it, manipulation, deception, theft. She's laundering money, I whispered. She's rewriting history, Marla corrected. And you? You're the missing piece. You were the first lie she had to tell to make the rest believable. My fingers shook as I flipped through the pages. And then I found the photo. Not the one from the envelope. A new one. One I'd never seen before. It was me, taken through a diner window. Last winter. Wearing my red flannel. Reading a book. I looked up at her, stunned. You've been following me? No. They have. I froze. Vera's people? I asked. Marla shook her head. No, not hers. Someone else. Someone who's been keeping tabs on you, and her, for a while now. I tried to speak, but I couldn't. My throat felt dry. The air in the apartment had turned thick, heavy with something unspoken. Then Marla leaned in close, eyes deadly serious. Lowell, you didn't just disappear. You were disappeared. She had help. She had backing. And the people she's in bed with? They don't care about you. They care about exposure. About risk. And now that you're back, you are the biggest risk of all. I sat back, pulse racing. The folders sat in my lap like a loaded weapon. My entire body felt like it was vibrating. I thought I had just stumbled into a personal lie. A betrayal between lovers. A story about a man trying to make peace with a past that broke him. But this was something else. Something much, much bigger. And now I was in the middle of it again. I don't know how long I sat there, holding that thick, crumpled folder like it was going to explain who I was supposed to be now. The old Lowell would have panicked. He would have tried to return everything to normal, begged Vera to undo the damage, tried to forgive her, to heal her. That man had been trained to put out fires in other people's lives while his own house burned quietly in the background. But the man in Marla's apartment, the one who'd been erased and left for dead, he just sat there, listening, processing. Who else knows I'm alive? I finally asked. Marla stood near the window, peeking through a sliver in the dusty curtain. She didn't answer right away, which in itself was an answer. Marla, I repeated, louder now. Who else knows? She turned back, expression tight. I think. Someone from the Royce circle. I'm not sure who exactly. But a few weeks ago, I noticed things. Subtle things. Cameras pointed at the alley behind your old work building. Inquiries about your death certificate. I have a friend in DMV who flagged someone digging into your records using old aliases. They're sniffing around. That's why I sent the photo. I didn't know how long I had. I rubbed my face. And you didn't think to warn me? I did. That's what the photo was. A test balloon. If you responded, I'd know you were still reachable. If not, I'd go dark again. But you walked right into the fire, Lowell. She saw you. And now everyone else who matters knows too. I stared at the folder in my lap. This is enough to bury her, I said. No, Marla replied. This is enough to bury you both. If you're not careful. I was about to ask what she meant when her eyes shifted back toward the curtain. Her entire body stilled. I followed her gaze. Outside, parked across the street, was a black sedan. Tinted windows. Clean. Idle. Engine off, but it hadn't been there before. And even from that distance, I could feel it watching us. That car's been circling the block all day, she said. Didn't park until you showed up. My stomach dropped. I stood, stepped cautiously to the side of the window, and peeked. It wasn't just a car. There was someone in the driver's seat. Not moving. Just waiting. You need to go, Marla said firmly. Now. Before they do something stupid. Where? I don't care. Just not here. I can't protect you if you stay. I didn't argue. I slid the folder back into its envelope and zipped up my coat. Marla pressed a cheap flip phone into my hand. One of those prepaid kinds drug dealers use in movies. Use this. One call only. Don't text. Don't power it on unless it's an emergency. I opened the back door and slipped out through the alley. The air outside was sharp and bitter. Somewhere in the distance, I heard sirens. Or maybe it was just the thrum of my own heart. I didn't look back. I walked until I found a bus station 2 towns over. Paid cash. Sat near the back with the envelope pressed tight against my ribs like a second spine. As the bus rolled away, I kept glancing out the window, watching for that car, for anyone familiar. But all I saw were reflections. My own tired, hollowed-out face staring back at me. And for a brief moment, I wondered what I would do if this really spiraled. If I had to choose between exposing Vera and surviving the aftermath. Because here's the truth no one likes to admit. Sometimes, you don't come back from betrayal. Not because you're weak, but because the person you were before doesn't exist anymore. And Vera? She didn't just betray me. She replaced me. Now I had to figure out whether I was going to take my place back, or destroy everything she built from the ashes. I hadn't slept in over 30 hours, but there I was, slouched in the back of a rattling inner-city bus, holding an envelope like it was the only thing keeping my lungs working. The folder of documents sat pressed against my side, edges damp from the drizzle on my coat. I stared blankly at the seat ahead of me, trying to pretend the slow burn in my gut was just hunger and not the unraveling of 5 years of silence. I didn't know where the bus was going. I told the driver I'd pay for the longest route that cost under $40. He nodded and took my cash without a second glance. That was good. The less attention I attracted, the better. Because if what Marla said was true, and someone in Vera's world knew I was alive, then it was only a matter of time before someone stopped asking about me and started looking. The bus groaned over a bridge as the city lights receded behind us, and I finally opened the envelope again. The manila paper crackled like old bones, and tucked between 2 pages was something I hadn't noticed before. A flash drive. Tiny. Silver. No label. Just wedged into the middle of the chaos like it belonged there all along. I stared at it for a long time, my pulse suddenly crawling up my throat. Marla hadn't mentioned it. Maybe she didn't know it was there. Or maybe she did, and she was waiting for me to find it myself. I didn't have a laptop. The burner phone she gave me was ancient and useless. So I waited. Spent the next 4 hours bouncing through rural towns and empty parking lots, clutching that flash drive in my pocket like a rosary. When we finally rolled into a sleepy town somewhere off the interstate, the kind of place with a gas station, a diner, and a half-lit motel, I got off. I paid for a room in cash. The clerk didn't even look up from his tablet. I dropped my bag, peeled off my wet coat, and stared at myself in the motel bathroom mirror for the first time in days. I didn't recognize the man looking back. Hollow cheeks, beard too long, eyes with a hunted gleam. I found a community library the next morning. One of those places with peeling carpet, stale air, and free computer access if you handed over your ID. I told the woman at the desk I lost mine in a flood. She looked me up and down, sighed, and said, 10 minutes. Don't break anything. The computer booted slower than an old dog waking up from a nap. My hands shook as I plugged in the flash drive. It blinked twice. Then a folder appeared. It was password protected. Of course it was. But the folder had a name. Greenhouse. My stomach lurched. I hadn't heard that word in years. Not since Vera and I lived in our last apartment. We used to nickname things. Grocery lists. Hidden files. Stupid inside jokes. Greenhouse had been her term for secrets. She said, all the messy stuff grows in the dark, just like a greenhouse. But it looks beautiful from the outside. I typed in the word, sunlight. It opened. Inside were 6 video files. I clicked the first one. The screen filled with shaky footage. Vera, sitting in a sleek conference room, dressed in one of those too expensive suits she used to mock. Across from her was a man I didn't recognize. Older, sharp suit, eyes like frostbite. The video had no audio, but I could read lips well enough. He slid a folder toward her. Vera opened it. Read. Paused. Looked at him. She said one word. Are you serious? He nodded. She blinked, swallowed, and asked something else. He replied. And then, slowly, her expression changed. No more confusion. No more hesitation. Just calm. Cold. Calculating. She closed the folder. Reached across the table. Shook his hand. The video ended. I opened the second one. This time, she was on a phone call. Again, no sound. But she was in our old apartment. Same kitchen counter. Same chipped mug. She was pacing, smiling, mouthing words I couldn't fully catch except for 2. Fake certificate. I didn't need the rest. It was clear what these videos were. Vera hadn't just erased me. She'd staged it. Built an entire narrative to support the lie. Documents. Witnesses. Maybe even legal papers. She hadn't just told the world I left. She told them I was dead. And she'd done it with help. I watched 3 more videos. One showed her signing something with a different name. Another showed her laughing over drinks with Martin Royce. And the last? The last one stopped my heart. It was me. A zoomed-in photo of me walking down the dock in Maine, carrying groceries. The timestamp was from 3 months ago. Underneath the image was a label. Verify location before executing final step. I yanked the flash drive out of the computer so fast the machine beeped in protest. The librarian looked up. I forced a smile and nodded, then bolted outside. I stood there on the library steps, heart slamming into my ribs like a fist. Someone had known I was alive 3 months ago. They tracked me, labeled me, prepared a final step, and I had no idea what that meant. But I was damn sure I wasn't going to wait around and find out. I didn't go back to the motel. I didn't go back anywhere familiar. I got on the next train heading west without even checking where it stopped. I sat there the whole ride, heart still hammering, the flash drive buried in my jacket like it might explode. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just kept watching every person who boarded, wondering if one of them was here for me. By the time I reached a larger city, Springfield, I think, I had made up my mind. I wasn't running anymore. I used the burner phone Marla gave me and made a single call. She answered on the second ring. It's time, I said. She didn't ask what I meant. She just said, where? 2 days later, we met in a coffee shop outside Boston. Marla brought everything, the folder, a second flash drive, even the original photo. I watched her slide it all into a plain white envelope, then walk it straight into the hands of the man waiting near the window. He wore a charcoal suit, simple tie, no nonsense. Federal Department of Justice. His words were simple. We've been waiting for this. Marla gave a tight nod. I didn't say a word. The man shook my hand and said, your name's going to be protected. You have my word. Witness security can give you a fresh start, or... No, I interrupted, finally speaking. I'm not hiding anymore. He paused, surprised. You sure? I nodded. She took 5 years from me. I'm not giving her 5 more. What followed was a blur of statements, legal forms, meetings with investigators. The videos from the flash drive were real. The shell companies were real. The laundering, the falsified death record, even her relationship with Martin Royce, all part of a carefully constructed machine built on my silence. But silence can only hold up lies for so long. When the headlines broke, they were everywhere. Royce empire rocked by fraud allegations. Humanitarian power couple implodes after secret marriage, fake death revealed. Whistleblower husband speaks out. I was told to disappear. Now I'm taking my life back. Vera was arrested at a gala in front of dozens of flashing cameras. They said she didn't even blink when they cuffed her. She just looked straight ahead like she still believed she could talk her way out of anything. But this time, there were too many voices. Mine included. Martin Royce? Turns out, he knew some of it. Not all. When he found out about me, when he found out she'd faked my death and forged our divorce to keep her hands clean, he flipped. He testified. And his empire nearly collapsed, but he walked away with a deal. I didn't care. I wasn't doing this for him. I was doing it for me. It's been a year now. I live in a small town outside Asheville, North Carolina. I rent a modest house with a porch that creaks every time I open the screen door. I work at a bookstore downtown. Quiet, steady work. People don't ask much, and I'm finally okay with not explaining myself. Marla still checks in every few weeks. We don't talk about the past much. She's working on a memoir. I told her I don't want to be a character in it. She laughed and said, "You've been invisible long enough, Lowell. Let someone tell your story for once." And Vera? She took a plea deal. 5 years minimum. Maybe more. I didn't watch the sentencing. Didn't need to. But last week, I got a letter. No return address. Just my name on the front. Inside, a single sentence, written in her familiar handwriting. "You survived me." I folded the letter, burned it in the fireplace, and as the ashes curled into smoke, I finally felt something I hadn't in a very, very long time. Peace. Not revenge. Not closure. Not even victory. Just peace. Because she told me to disappear. But instead, I came back. And this time I stayed.